Valorant patch 9.10 just got released today, and they made a ton of changes with agent balancing, weapon balancing, even a new armor type, so let's talk through it all. One of the biggest changes they made, in my opinion, was a buff to the Phantom, where now its one-shot range has been extended from 15 meters to 20 meters. How it used to work is once you get past 15 meters in a fight, the Phantom will hit for 140, which I'm sure you guys have experienced, and I'm sure you guys know how annoying that is when that happens. Well, now you can fight up to 20 meters and still be able to one-shot people without getting that 140 dink, which is a absolutely noticeable difference. Trust me, I was trying it out in the range and it is definitely noticeable. A lot of people already considered the Phantom a better gun than the Vandal, but the main drawback of the Phantom was that 140 range. So now that that's been extended to one shot from further away, I honestly do think the Phantom is becoming a much better gun than the Vandal, especially with this change. While we're on the topic of weapon balancing, let's go through the rest of the weapon changes, and the next thing that they changed is they basically nerfed run and gun across the board. Walking inaccuracy and running inaccuracy has been greatly increased, so if you're walking around or running around while you're shooting, you're going to be much less accurate than you already were. I'll put up all the numbers on screen right now so you can see them, but basically moving while crouching is more inaccurate, right-clicking the classic while running is more inaccurate, right-clicking while jumping is more inaccurate, running inaccuracy is reduced, walking inaccuracy is reduced, in pretty much every gun from pistols, rifles, machine guns, basically everything. A really interesting change that they made actually is now the Ghost has 13 bullets in the clip instead of 15, and the Frenzy now has 15 bullets in the clip instead of 13. So they slightly reduced the Ghost here, but slightly increased the Frenzy, so I'm thinking maybe they're trying to bring the Frenzy more into play on pistol round compared to the Ghost that's pretty much dominating it right now. I personally think all these weapon balance changes are good. I think that increasing the skill ceiling by making run and gun inaccurate is a good change to the game. Obviously, run and gun is really annoying, so with that being toned down, I think that these are all good changes. I think that pretty much covers everything in the weapon changes category, so let's talk about this new armor type real quick that just got added. So previously there's only light shield and heavy shield, but now there is armor regen, which is a new shield type that costs 650 credits. How it works is when you buy it, you get 25 shield up front, but then you have a shield regen pool of 50. This basically means that if you get your shield completely cracked and you're down to 0 shield, it will regen all the way back up to 25 with 25 more in the tank ready to refill. I think this is pretty interesting, but in a one-shot headshot game like Valorant, I don't know how well this is going to fit into the meta, and honestly, I don't really see myself buying this too often. I personally haven't tried it out in game yet, so I could be completely wrong about this, but to me, I don't really see the point of buying this over normal light shield since you'd have more money to buy utility, weapons, stuff like that. I can imagine myself buying this on an eco round and then I just get one shot to the head with a sheriff and it was just pointless. I still need to try it out in game obviously before I can form my real opinion on it, but just initial opinions, I don't think it's going to be too overpowered like a lot of people might be thinking, but I think it's a cool addition to the game. It is what it is. Another interesting thing about this regen shield is that it absorbs 100% of incoming damage taken before damage to health occurs. So with normal shields, if you get shot at, you will lose both shield and health at the same time. So you might have 10 shield left, but you might have like 70 HP left because it tanked both. With this new armor type, you won't take any damage to your health until the entire shield has been cracked, which I think is a really interesting buff, and that might actually be pretty interesting to see in game. All in all, I'm really interested to see how this is going to fit into the meta, and I'm wondering for pro play and VCT and stuff like that, if this is something that they're going to be using in there. I honestly have no idea, so I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts on this in the comment section. Now let's get into the really juicy stuff with the agent balance changes, and let's start with Phoenix, who got, in my opinion, the biggest changes. So Phoenix got a pretty big change, and that is that his flash is now his signature E ability, and his molly is now his Q ability. This is really big because it means that he gets his flash for free every single round, so he doesn't have to buy that flash. You just get it off rip every round and you could use it. His molly Volley is now his Q ability, which means it will now cost 200 credits, but in my opinion, that is a much better trade-off for having that free flash. His wall also got a slight buff where you can throw the wall through objects so that you can throw it for your team or throw it for a site execute or whatever you want to do with it, and this is a good buff to have. I always felt like the wall was a little bit weak compared to everything else, so I think it's pretty much on par now, and honestly, all of these Phoenix buffs are just really good. Like, Phoenix is just objectively a better agent after all these changes, which is kind of crazy because I already thought he was a pretty good agent. I didn't really think he was weak or anything like that, so who knows, maybe Phoenix will be the new Neon or new ISO that just completely breaks the meta and everyone's picking him, so we'll just have to see about that. The next agent to receive a buff is actually Sage, which I was not expecting. I was not expecting to see a Sage buff this morning, but she got buffed, so here's everything that's changed. Firstly, her self heal has been buffed from 30 HP to 50 HP, and now you fully heal yourself in just 5 seconds rather than the super slow heal that there was before. Her ultimate ability, which is her res, now costs 7 orbs instead of 8 orbs, which is an absolutely huge change. The res might be one of the best ults in the game, and now it just got cheaper. And lastly, her slow orbs now slow jet dashes and neon slides going through it, so you can't just dash past the orb or slide through it. It will actually still affect you, so now slow orbs will really shut down a push. These changes just make me happy because Sage really did fall out of the meta recently with Cypher and Killjoy and all these other Sentinels being much better, so seeing Sage get some love is a really good thing in my book. Speaking of Sentinels, it looks like our boy Cypher just received a pretty big nerf, honestly. So now Cypher trips have a 0.5 second delay between when they hit the trip and when they get the wall hack effect on them, so they can actually break the trip before they get scanned if they run into it, which is insane. They did this to increase the counterplay time window after hitting it, which makes sense. Obviously, it's a little bit annoying when you walk into a Cypher trip and immediately the entire enemy team has walls on you, so I think that it was a needed change, but obviously sucks for Cypher mains. Let's be honest, it was just a matter of time before Cypher eventually got nerfed, and honestly, this change could have been a lot worse to his tripwires, but a 0.5 second delay isn't that bad. The next nerf to Cypher is with his ultimate. His ultimate will now cost 7 orbs instead of just 6 orbs. This change kind of sucks, but honestly, Cypher's ult is really good, so getting it a little bit less often doesn't hurt too bad, and they're just trying to shift around the meta because obviously Cypher is picked a lot and Sage is not picked very often, so when they're just looking at raw pick rates, they're gonna nerf Cypher and they're gonna buff Sage, and I think that this is just healthy for the game. I'm just gonna rapid fire through these next few agents because the changes aren't huge, but they're still significant. So Omen got a slight nerf where basically you can't use your smoke to one-way on walls anymore. There used to be some one-ways that you can do on B main, on Split for example, or A on Lotus, where you can put the smoke in the wall and it'll create a one-way. You can't do those anymore, and this is basically to make them more aligned with the other controllers that also can't do one-ways like this. Next up we have Clove. So for Clove's ultimate, when you self-res, the time to get a kill has been reduced from 12 seconds to 10 seconds, and apparently this was an accidental buff that they made in patch 8.11, so they've now reverted that. For Deadlock, they made it more apparent what health the barrier mesh is at and what health the cocoon from the ult is at, so you can tell more easily when it's about to break, which I thought you could already see pretty clearly, but they just changed the visuals for that a bit. Enemies caught inside of her ultimate cocoon will now always die when the timer expired, and they don't have to make it to the end of the travel for the entire cocoon like they previously did, which is an interesting but very situational update that they made. And the final agent balance change that they made was a very small one to Jet, and that is that if you are suppressed by KO Knife, it will also suppress your passive ability, meaning you cannot float. And that is pretty much all of the changes that came today in patch 9.10. This was a pretty big update with a lot of changes, so let me know what you guys think about all of these changes changes down in the comment section below. I usually just post a short form video whenever these types of updates happen, but I actually wanted to try something new this time around and make a full-on long form video talking about the patch notes, but I will still have a short form video coming out for this as well. With that, I think that's pretty much everything I have for you guys in this video. I have a Discord link down in the description below. You can come and join up there. We have a really chill community. I'm pretty active in there, so if you have any questions or want to ask me anything or just talk to people in the community, make sure to come join up there. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you have a great rest of your day or night, and I will catch you in the next one. Peace out.
I might sell a Rari and go vroom vroom. Shawty wanna chill with me, bitch, I don't fuck with you. Got my old shawty testing on my side too. Tell your boyfriend leave me alone, he can't do what I do. I might sell a Rari and go vroom vroom. Shawty wanna chill with me, bitch, I don't fuck with you. Got my old shawty testing on my side too.